What's up, boys and girls, Lambo here, and today's video will be another Pepega Tuesday video where I'm gonna analyze 3 subscriber replays. All 3 of which today are gonna be ZvP analysis. We're gonna have, I think, a little bit of a 12 pool, some failed Cannonrush and stuff like that, a bunch of Skytoss transitions. So if you struggle against that, feel free to watch this video. And all of them will be around Masters, low GM level, but I think there's gonna be some tips for all of you in there. And if you guys enjoy this kind of content, make sure to press the like button and subscribe and click the bell. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first replay is from #1 Ooze fan. I wanted to ask what the right play against the style is. Rushing Corruptor, etc., or is there any sort of timing to kill the Protoss? Please also ignore the fight that is fourth. We definitely won't ignore that. 3-star get Voidra into fast carrier. Alright, I did not see the MMR. Guys, always put your MMR next to it when you have a replay. So I believe... Okay, so this is definitely mechanics. Wait, what MMR are you? I didn't see it in the... What? Did you just try to blind counter a Cannonrush, or do you always do that? It was 4.9k. This guy is a massive Pepega already, that much I can tell you. He blindly made a cannon assuming that it's 12 pool, or he did. This is also not where you put the pylons. What is this? Why are you making spines? You should just pull drones there. Oh my god, this is already a true banger of a game. So let's just use logic here, okay? You have a drone here before he starts anything and nothing is walled off. So let's just pretend for a second that you don't have a spawning pool, which makes this decision 20 times easier because you have Zerglings that are about to pop. All you need to do is keep this drone here so he can't wall and pull a couple more drones, like let's say 5. And the game is over. You just hold this for free. Now instead of keeping him from walling, even if you're making Zerglings, instead of just keeping your drone here, you follow the probe. To make sure he gets the weirdest wall I've ever seen on this map. And also, I don't think you needed to cancel your hatchery. In what world is this hatchery gonna die? Like, even if you lose all your Zerglings, that's worth saving the hatchery. I would have just engaged it with the Zerglings. Alright, so that happened. That's an early game, I guess. Did you just build Overlord speed before the Queen? Against a person with no possible anti-air where you could just put your Overlord here? This already is so, like, this is already an insane early game. Insane. Like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say about this. Yeah. When did your Queen die? No, you just didn't make one. There is no world in which you make the Queen Overlord speed instead of the Queen. There's no world. Even if you want to go 3 hatch before the Queen, I can live with that decision, but I can't. This, like, you can't have anti-air. You don't actually need Overlord speed. You can just fly here. Oof. Okay. Good start. Good start. This is still 13 more minutes to go, and already a solid case for the Pepega King of the week. So we now are actually probably ahead, I would say. Yeah, for sure ahead. We have 2 spines left over from the early game. Okay, massive supply block. This is before you lose this Overlord, which you're definitely gonna lose because you stopped moving. This early game is so bad. Holy shit. Okay, okay. I can't. This is already... You're floating 10 larvae. Okay, now we're making the drones. Okay, okay, in general in the early game, no matter if something weird happens, it's always better to spend your drones first, or your larvae on drones first, before you make extra hatcheries. And then once you naturally get the minerals for extra hatcheries, you take the hatcheries. You do not just randomly make a hatchery like that. That's not good. That's not efficient. You have 30 drones right now, you don't need a 4th hatchery. You're also not injecting your hatcheries. Which inject is actually... Like, this is 4.9k you said? So, inject actually gives you 3 larvae the moment the inject pops. 3 new larvae spawns. And with that larva you can make more drones. It really speeds up your economy quite a bit, so... Alright. And now we're not ahead anymore. Because we're float... like, we're not in... This is also not how you group spread. Alright, so... we know that it's 3 Stargate Void Ray. I think the best thing you guys can do is you can... If you're afraid that the Void Rays do something, you can put 2 spores in the main base, but the rest you should defend with only queens, and then eventually wait for your Hydras. But you already could have won the game very easily if you just macroed correctly, so that's... Like the one thing that I would suggest for you is to look at your top right and then make overlords at the right moments. If the early game goes weird, maybe that's just because the early game was weird. Do that. And the spores are terrible against Void Rays. Just make extra queens, they're much better. You are making a lot of queens, but like you have more than enough queens to beat these Void Rays. The only scary thing is that if you have like 4 or 5 queens here, then you can only have like 3 in the main base, which also would be fine by the way, because you have Hydra spawning. So you don't need any spores at all. I would have actually gotten 0 spores this game. Like against no Oracle play, you don't actually need spores. Chances are also Cannonrush players just mass Void Rays, so keep that in mind. And yeah, you could already have been at 80 drones right now. As we can see, spores are very useful against Void Rays. This spore did it. This spore is a hero. And the other spore, let's not hate, the spores actually saved the hatchery because they wasted some time. Good on the spores. So one thing that I think a lot of you need to learn against Void Rays is that the cheapest way of knowing where the Void Rays are going is having Lynx patrol. Even though you're gonna lose the Zerglings, you will see where the Void Rays are. And sometimes they will have them on move command and you're still gonna like even not lose the Zergling. So even if you just have a couple, so let's say we have 1 patrolling here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here, you will know the general direction of where the Void Rays are, and then this won't happen. This should never happen. If you're not sure at all where the Void Rays are, you know you have this Overlord here, you should split up your stuff. Like Void Rays can't engage, like if you have even 6-7 Void Rays, you can't engage onto 6 queens at all, as long as the queens have some energy. I also want to talk about this creep spread right here. You had 3 tumors. They spread like this, and then you put like 3 or 4 extra down. I think these 3 became these 3, and then you put like 4 extra down. 3 on 1 avenue is more than enough to like to spread, and also against Void Rays, transfuse energy is pretty important, so you shouldn't waste that. But like you have 7 tumors here and 0 here in this area. There's 1 here, which is this one from the start. So yeah, already this game, like so many things you could have done better for sure. Like you're actually just behind because you're mostly just behind because you didn't drone. Why is he long distance mining? Okay, now we're going double upgrades.
Mineral cluster expended. Swarm has
If you wanted to go for a higher bane time, that baniness is a lot, like way too late.
commentated unacceptable. Command unacceptable. Swarm
Okay, so the main question of him was if he asked if he could go faster Corruptor or something, right? If I read through the Discord message again. Rushing Corruptors theoretically would be good against us, but it's not necessary. And also they don't necessarily need to go into carries, they can just make more Void Rays. But if you just get a clean early game, you can hit a Hydra Bane timing, let's say after like a failed Cannonrush and stuff, let's say you're a minute delayed. Right? Let's say you hit at 9 minutes, we're gonna see how much he has at 9 minutes. And you could have easily hit at 9 minutes, easily. So he has these carriers without full interceptors and a couple of Void Rays. And at this moment in time, if you actually made drones and the early game were not supply blocked, you didn't go for Overlord speed, you could be maxed, almost, let's say almost maxed, considering the MMR, right? With +1, and that just goes to show that all you really need is a solid early game, and then you're gonna destroy these Skytoss builds. Like, the more clean you play, the more you can punish them. At the very least, like, if you can't fight into this, right? At the very least, you can attack this.
Additional pylon needs for this action.
So yeah, like the timing that you're going for right now could just have been way earlier, basically. That's what I want to say, and with baning speed preferably. At the moment you throw down these buildings, you should be making drones right now. I hope you make drones even though you just lose your entire army. First of all, you can't go in like this. This is not a thing. Okay, so the game is over now. The moment you decide to do this, you should throw down... You should just make mass drones, like above 100 drones, and then start massing spores and preserve your army. Because you don't want to spend extra money on extra hydras just to survive. If you want to go late game against Skytoss, you can just spend all your money on drones, tech structures, upgrades, and spore crawlers. And yeah, like at this point you're dead. Theoretically, against what he did, you could have probably gone Corruptors if you had a good early game too, yeah. Now we're making Corruptors. Before you make Corruptors, you should go Spores. So usually before you make Corruptors, you need anti-High Templar. Just Corruptors alone does nothing. You always get the Lurkers or Ultras first. Lurkers, Ultras, Broodlords. You always get those first, and then you go into Corruptor Viper. Not the other way around, because then the Protoss can just A-move you, and there's nothing you can do. But you're playing this from miles behind, so... He's almost at his perfect army, whereas you have... a couple of soon-to-be 1-1 Corruptors with absolutely nothing against High Templar Archon. Okay, got an Abduct there. It's hard for the Protoss sometimes to know if there's actually nothing. Like, if there's any amount of banelings, that's also scary, right? It looks like he realized. Did I just feedback the same Viper 3 times? He feedbacked it 4. He feedbacked the same Viper 4 times and he feedbacked this twice. I'm not sure if he has rapid fire, but that's hilarious. Legendary Protoss play. Are we gonna see a GG? Yes, fantastic. Okay, so you just need to actually worry about supply blocks. I think is the biggest deal here in the early game, and a little bit of logical thinking about the Cannonrush. Like if you see there's no wall, even if you wouldn't have a pull, you can deny this Cannonrush. Like if you see a Cannonrush and your drone is already next to the cannon, and you know you can attack this with 3 or more drones, just pull drones. And if you're sure you don't defend it, just you can give it up. But if you go pull first especially, you can pull some drones and defend it easily. You went pull first this game. And this is not an actual Cannonrush location, because you would have needed 2 pylons and then 2 more here to wall it off. And these pylons had a ton of surface area on them. And yeah, even after this you were ahead, but it was just mostly miss macro. Always try to keep injects up, even if you're messing queens. Like one thing that goes for both against Terran and against Protoss is if you want to get a lot of queens before you make, or before you leave with the queen, make sure to inject. So you're injecting here. No, this is massively supply blocked. This is supply block is just unreal. And this is what I mean. Before you leave with these queens, you should have injected here and here. You see this energy? And now instead of spending money on more drones that you could have this larva, right? You're taking extra hatch and making a lair and stuff. You also should have just had way more larvae because your queen was way too late since you made overlord speed, and even you made the queen way after your 3 hatcheries. So the biggest takeaway from this game is macro better. Pretty much. And you can search for where the Void Rays are coming from with Zerglings. It's actually very useful. And don't make spores against Void Rays. Okay, let's see if there is any questions in the chat. Doesn't he have too many Hydras for the Hydra timing? Well, yes. Ideally, you would want to attack as early as possible with max 20 Hydras against Void Ray, but that's against Void Ray into Storm. If you're going Void Rays into Carrier, you can just get a lot of Hydras. Like if it's Stormless, which this wasn't. Getting Hydra Queen with more Hydras is fine. Wouldn't max be 9:30 for a 1 minute delay? Yeah, but you attack before your max. Preferably. This is Masters 1, yes. In this case, he'd have defended well this. Can he go for some sort of all-ins with queens or something? No, the last thing you should do when you get ahead is all-in. Early especially. If you want to do a late all-in, if you want to do the taxi after this early game, sure. Be my guest. But don't just walk across the map with a couple of queens and then lose against, like with the 2 queens that you can have against 2 Void Rays and a battery. The way you punish Protoss with a bad Cannonrush or a failed Cannonrush, macro Cannonrush, is you just make drones for free because he can't have any scary attacks. So without, like, you can turn your Bane off, get 66 drones and then do any timing, and then that's how you would punish this. Okay, the next replay we have is from Numi. He said failed 12 pull versus Prince in 1-1 best of 3 series, feels bad, bully my 12 pull. So we're at the GM now, GM level. And apparently this was after it was 1-1 in the tournament. So first things first, don't 12 pull on Oxide. It's not a good 12 pull map. The good 12 pull maps are Lightshade, Jagannatha, Submarine. And then Romanticide is okay-ish. And Oxide is already pretty bad. Because of the way the wall works. The Protoss does not even need a second gateway to defend. I just hope Protosses don't watch my YouTube, to be honest. Because with the perfect defense, you don't even need a second gateway on this map. Or rather, you shouldn't get one. And you can't have a surface area anywhere on this. Whereas on other maps where there is no ramp, like you see how close your Zerglings are to a Zealot? This is already bad. You never want to get hit by on your Zerglings. Basically, how you want to execute a 12 pull is you want to have preferably 4 or 5 Zerglings hitting the gateway, while threatening to run in if the Zealot tries to hit your Zerglings. But you don't have the time to run in if you attack this gateway with 4 Zerglings, because the distance is just like this, right? Same with if you hit this building. This is why this map sucks for 12 pool. Whereas if you do this on Light Shed and Submarine, it's impossible for Protoss to have a setup like this. Because there will be more surface area on the buildings. Okay, so I think you're taking gas a little bit too early as well, to be honest. Against this response, honestly, you can do nothing. Just make sure to keep your Zerglings alive, and that's fine. Like, I would feel ahead if I play against this response. So maybe 12 ping is fine, as long as Protosses don't know what they're doing. This is wild. I would have kept those at home. What is this? He didn't wall. So this is GG. So you're telling me you're losing this game? You should run right now. You should run. You saw the recall. Also, you should start speed and then pull all 3 off gas, or at least 2. Oh my god, you're losing all the Zerglings for free. You saw the recall, my man. No, this game was over. Actually, you actually had the game was over. It's completely over. It's an almost unlosable position. Like we had a couple of macro errors with like not making this overlord in time and not starting speed. But if you save all of those Zerglings and you have 16 links and he has 2 zealots, 2 adepts, with a Stargate just now starting, Warp Gate not even started. He did not even start Warp Gate yet. I mean, this was... Oh my god, he finished the pylon. Why are you making a 2-base layer? What? Oh my god, this is... Maybe this is why you wanted to take the gas so early? Please don't tell me you're going 2-base Roach against Void Ray. Okay, it's just your follow-up is bad. It's always better to just get more drones early and then the Hydras after. This 2-base Hydra stuff is just a meme, mostly. Let's hope Yona isn't watching so he doesn't start complaining, but yeah, it's not good what you're doing. You're behind now. So now you're all gonna all in, I guess, with the Hydras. Learn how to play the early game properly, then do this with more drones and you're gonna win. It's as easy as that. Also, you should get Hydra range. It would have finished by now, I'm pretty sure. And Hydra range is massive if you do these timings. No, no way. You can't fight at all close to shield batteries. Okay, so... if you want to do a Hydra all-in, still just... So, what should have happened here? First of all, your gas should be later. You don't need a layer this early. It's better to have more units a little bit later on. And have like way less units slightly earlier. So the moment you see this recall, which you must be aware of, right? You looked in your natural. Okay, you saw the units were gone. You back out here. This is insanely greedy. You're not even looking at your Zerglings. Man, I feel so bad for these guys. They tried their best. They won you the game with the runway and then you just ignore them. So what you should do right now is after you pull off gas, you just take a 3rd hatchery, make a creep tumor, and you're ahead. Especially if you save the Zerglings. Even if you don't save the Zerglings, I'm pretty sure you're ahead with the normal follow-up. Because he finished this and he made a shield battery and he made way too many pylons. Look, it's a laser pylon level. So... and no warp gate, so you can make drones forever now, so yeah. I would have just chosen a completely different follow-up. I think your 12-pull execution was fine. This is not a good 12-pull map, so you're never gonna get any damage done. The run by is also okay. If he makes a wall, you're in a little bit of trouble, but he didn't even make extra adepts. Like, if he had a third adept, I don't like the run by as much. Like, if he even just starts it, because then he walls, the adept spawns. You need to back off, and then you need to way over make Zerglings at home. So the safest play to always get ahead against people that don't know how to play against 12 pool, which is going to be basically every Protoss below 6.5k, 6.6k. Even some 6.6k Protosses have no clue about how to deal with it. Just do nothing and go back home with your Zerglings. Try to focus on having a clean follow-up, so no supply locks like we see here. Don't take your gas too early, take a third hatch whenever you can, and you're gonna be fine. Let's see if there are any questions in the chat. He could have destroyed that pylon. I'm not sure. Definitely not without losing any. No, I don't think so actually. If he micros here, like, you don't get full surface area as well on the pylon. Like, if you turn around right away and focus the probe maybe with 2 links, maybe, but pylons actually build very fast and they have more HP than like a cannon, for example, so out DPSing them is actually, you need a bunch of Zerglings to hit them right away. I mean, he had to finish it, otherwise his stuff was unpowered. Like, this is still good for you, just your follow-up. That was not the greatest. When are you making a 12 pool guide? Probably soon-ish. You might get us 2 Base Hydra. But I don't think it's viable. Yeah, 2 Base Hydra is just not good. What is the most effective all-in after a 12 pool like that? Like, something very late. 12 pool doesn't transition well into all-ins. I explained this a couple of times already on my stream. But basically what happens with 12 pool is that you mine a lot less than your opponent at first, and then you overtake him later on in the game. So if you start doing any early all-in, so any all-in before, let's say, 50 workers, you're just gonna have mined less than your opponent, which is not ideal. So if you want to go for all-ins, just do something with 66 drones. If your opponent doesn't have a good response, the best thing you can do is just get a lot of drones, because they won't have tight timings afterwards to punish you. So just get a lot of drones, and then let's say 66 drones. Something easy for, just go like Roach Ravager all-in, or if they make Void Race, Roach Ravager Queen Hydra, something like that. I think that's very easy to do, and you guys can make that happen. When you're against the Protoss and you know they're going Skytoss, I think you said Hydraling Bane is the way to go. No, I did not say that. I said Hydraling Bane is the way to go against, like, to Stargate Void Ray into ground. My question, are melee upgrades or range upgrades better for the match? Well, range, but you don't need Link Bane against actual Skytoss. Could a Protoss playing versus you play more greedy on this map because they know you won't get 12 pulled? For example, later scouting? Yeah, but that's why you mix in some 12 pull. A 66 drone Roach Ravager Swarm most timing push after 12 pull viable? Absolutely, yes. As long as it's not many Void Rays. Does the no all-in after 12 pull rule also apply to ZvZ? No, it does not. Because the mining evens up way faster, because your opponent loses the mining advantage super quickly, because he needs to pull the drones to defend the hatchery. So that's not comparable at all to what happens here, because the Protoss just straight up outmines you and he doesn't have to pull probes. So the next one will be from Covey, 4.6 KMR. This was a true Pepeg loss. I'm not really sure what I was supposed to do against this. I mean, if it was super Pepeg, shouldn't that be obvious? Let's decide ourselves. Alright, so we're against Barry Roar. Let's see what Barry has got in store for us. 8 minutes, alright. If anyone is watching this on YouTube, by the way, and you're like, why is no... why are there no Gold League replays or something to help me out? If you want to have a chance at getting your replay submitted to this, or analyzed, you need to subscribe on Twitch and then be in my Discord. And then you have a pretty decent chance at actually getting analysis for your games. Alright, so this guy went... I don't know what this is, actually. But you're gonna know in a second. Like, this looks like a Blink opener, right? Or some very weird, like, charge that icon immortal stuff. Like, first of all, what is this? You see this 2 gate, Nexus first, gas on the natural, double sentry. This is all the stuff that you should see. Not sure if you looked at your Overlord. You even saw Twilight. So you see Twilight Forge Robo, you do not need a Roach Warren at this moment in time. But it's not the worst thing. Make sure to hit all your injects against this, by the way. Very important. You get max drones out right away. Why are you making roaches right now? Why? No, call me, why? Your opponent is literally walled inside his base. He can't... He's walled in. You see his units. Why are you making roaches, man? You've got to be kidding me. You literally see your opponent has... Okay, so a general rule, if you don't know what's going on, of how many drones you can make, is if your opponent is all-inning without any tech, so some weird immortal all-in, and he has at least 3 gas, we can defend this very easily with like 46 drones, at the very least. 46 drones, if you go Roach Rev drilling. If he has a Forge, that ups the drone count by a lot. But if he has a Forge and a Twilight, and we see that he can't leave his base yet, immediately I will make 60 drones. Without hesitation. 60, right away, just like that. He's blink calling with +2. What the... Why did he kill that? He could have just lifted the sentries out of the... Is he gonna remake it as well? That's so lazy actually, because he can't hit right now anyways, right? He wants to wait for his upgrade on his War Prism. Alright, so your drones were too late, but you should still be fine, so let's see what happens. Is it? Oh no. So if you're playing against this Blink Stalker audience, there's generally a couple of things you can do. One, you need to be aware that these all-ins trade well over time. But you can severely outmine your opponent because you can survive these. Like, I can hold this with 66 drones, I'm pretty sure. So let's say you went for a reasonable drone count of, let's say 58 or something, okay? 58. Then there's no way you die fast, right? You will just die over time. So what you can try to do is you stay on a little bit of a lower drone count for extra units, which is what you did, but you don't have extra units because you droned too late. And you try to go for a surround. But you need to make sure that you come in from behind as well to get an actual surround, or like come in with the Zerglings from here, for example, as he's pushing forward. And then you try to Corrosive Bite in the center of his units. He will blink back all the Stalkers, all his sentries will die. It's GG. The other thing you can do is, because you mine way more, you can also just stand here and try to zone him out with Corrosive Bites and then go for massive counterattacks. I think this will be the easiest one, because you can't really mess this up too much. Like, you will force a massive warp in here, let's say you're counterattacking. With a bunch of links, you can even send some Ravagers or a Roach or a couple of Roaches. Usually there's a pylon in the one on a gateway like this, so in this scenario it's a little bit harder. You have a lair, so you could drop Zerglings as well, by the way. So, like, you could elevate your links up here, because you have a lair. So a lot of things you could do. What you cannot do, and this is the only thing that you cannot do, and this is the only times I ever see Blink Stalker All work. You stay on a drone count similar to your opponent, and then you go for straight up fights where you just come from the same angle where the Stalker player just blinks back his Stalkers one by one. It's the only thing that you can do. So going for a full-on straight-up engagement should work if you macro it correctly. But doing this, where you go in from one side, and then the Stalkers blink back and are not... I mean, this guy didn't really micro, but... these traits are not good. So this is the worst. If you want to fight like this, you should make sure that you have more drones, because then you can trade inefficiently and eventually you're just gonna beat it as well with Mass Roach Ravager. Also, while you're defending, you're not really injecting right now, so that's a big issue. While you're defending and you notice you can't spend your money anymore, bring your queens to the front, start new queens after injecting, obviously, and only make Roach Ravager. Zerglings are nice and all, but Zerglings are not the best way of spending your money if you're struggling to spend it, which is the case here. So, like miss macros going on, and this is not how you should fight. You should just be zoning out mainly, and then if he blinks forward, then that's when you fight, for example. Like, just put Grosses Bites here until you think you have enough, and then try to go first around. Doing little counter attacks are great, especially if you could have dropped here with a drop alert. That would have been amazing. Pretty sure that would have just won you the game. Like, that would have forced a recall, probably. Or forced, like, a massive warp, and if there's... like, if he warps an 8 Stalkers here in his base, that's 8 less Stalkers at the front. So that's massive as well. Okay, any questions? When are the proper times to get a Roach Warren? What is wrong with a slightly early Roach Warren, especially in Masters? Not that much. Honestly, getting the Roach Warren a little bit too early is fine. The reason this was made fun of is because his opponent literally could not have had a single unit on the map. The Warp Gate was late because it was Nexus first. He made sentries, a Forge, and he's walled in. So the most units that could have been on the map would be maybe a 2 Adept Warpen with a random proxy pylon. So instead, the Roach Warren could be the drone that made the Roach Warren be... It could be the drone mining, it could be an extra earlier queen, or extra drones. An earlier queen later on is good because it has more... it puts on creep terminus, it obviously gains value over time, just like the drones do. So that's why getting the Roach Warren too early in this case is not optimal, but I don't mind if you guys always go for an early Roach Warren. The thing is, I wish sometimes you just think about it. Like, sometimes it's really just 1+1 that is going wrong in StarCraft players' heads when I watch these replays, where it's like, if you look at this setup at the very start, you know there can't be anything aggressive. But that's also something that I guess comes a little bit with experience. So this Roach Warren is in time for the earliest Glaive Adept push. The earliest Glaive Adept push. Which can't be the case because it's Nexus first, unless he would have chrono boosted this. But also you saw multiple sentries in a Forge. And he's trying to scout with this, so... Like, you see we're floating larva right now, right? Like, this is... Like... If you're unsure of what's up and what's happening, then yes, making a Roach Warren completely fine. Making the actual roaches, though, I have to stay a little bit critical of that. I have to stay a little bit critical of that one. You can't... like... he has a nice vision as well, right? Like, I don't know what these roaches are for, to be honest. I don't know. So if I spot anything more than just a robo, I can go up to 66 drones, no problem. Not exactly. There obviously can be very early glaive timings, just like the glaive pressure, for example, where you can't go up to that much. But this was a forge and a twilight, a delayed robo, and gases on the natural with many sentries. So if you think about it logically, the only things that it can be would be a Stalker sentry timing, which is way later with Blink. Otherwise, why would he even be getting upgrades, right? This early. And the other thing would be a charged Icon timing, which also would hit very late. So it's better to get many drones out early to have more units later on. But not in general. If you see a Twilight, you can make 66 drones. That should not be the resolution that you got from this game. This was more of a how many drones you can make against Immortal Villains. I remember one 5-gate all-in that hit really early. That's probably 2 gas, yeah, and that you should stay on a lower drone count. And yeah, like different Immortal all-ins obviously need different reactions, but in this case it was very obvious that it couldn't be like an Immortal 5-gate all-in, right? Based off the information that he had. You can just think about what can be on your side of the map. This is not a normal robo for an Immortal all-in, right? This is a robo after a Forge and a Twilight. So he can't possibly attack. Like, it is not physically possible unless he has mineral hacks on to to have like extra gateways proxy that can be warping in. That's what I want you guys to understand. Is that full wall legit? No, that's not good. How many drones do I want against a 3 tank push? What's a 3 tank push? Like a normal 3cc? Like what 3 tank push is? Are you talking about 2 base all-in or? It depends on how well your early game goes. I think usually you can defend the delayed tank pushes with like 80 drones. So if you lose 10 drones, maybe you want to stay a little bit lower. If you don't lose any drones, you can go up to 80. And then if you think you're macroing very well, maybe you can get even more, because more likely than not your opponent is making mistakes, right? Your MMR is like 4.9k, I think. So if you're not messing up and you're feeling good about the game, then you can go up to a higher drone count. So it depends a little bit on how the game goes. When would you have made the Roach Horn in this game? Probably like now. Yeah, probably like around right now. I would have taken probably a second gas instead of double gas, but double gas is fine. I would have started the Evo chamber earlier. And with my scouting information, I probably would have went up to 60 drones. 60 drones, 5 gas is probably what I would have done. Like, I would have started the Roach Horn basically, then to start also Roach Speed. Then just mass Roach Ravager. I don't think I would have tried to go for links around. I probably just would have mass Roach Ravager and try to deny the ramp and then do a run by with a couple of Zerglings. After he warps in a couple of units, I do a bigger run by with like 10 Roaches or so. Probably is what I would have done. I had like 66 drones and died to this with Lingbane Muta, and I only lost 3 drones. That must mean that you must have either not macroed correctly or missed any form of micro then. Like not having the Baning split, not coming from behind, not coming from multiple angles overall. Going completely off creep, not having queens in the fight, like a lot of these. Probably, because I can't see the replay right now, so I can't analyze it for you, what exactly went wrong. But must be a combination of these factors. When would you actively scout for Proxy Stargate, Twilight, Robo and ZvP? Proxy Stargate, I almost always scout for it. If I think it's possible. Most of the time, Protoss do not proxy a Stargate if they don't go... If they scout. So if they go for a Cybercore scout, I would scout for Proxy Stargate almost always. Gateway scout also sometimes. Otherwise, they just can't afford it. If they go for a super early Pylon scout and then try to proxy a Stargate, you will see that they won't be making a Gateway unit plus or a Cybercore researching the Warp Gate, so in that case you don't really need to scout for it. Usually in ZvP I don't really fly in. I just wait to see what happens with the gateways. If it's multiple adapts, I can fly in to see if it's a Void Ray or an Oracle. Other than that, I mostly scout with sending my links around. But then you need, that's pretty high level, so I don't think that's what you guys should all copy. What's a viable timing push against a standard Stargate Oracle? What's a viable tank push against a standard Oracle Phoenix Protoss, so like just Oracle Phoenix into ground. A viable timing push, so like Roach Ravager is Warmost, I would say. Or the Taxi is very strong against that too. How often do you check money supply in game? I don't know. I don't actually know, but I would suggest that you guys do it in every cycle. So maybe after you inject every single time. How often do you make mutas against Protoss? It used to be a lot back when they didn't used to play 2 Stargate, but now that 2 Stargate is very standard. Barely ever. But I do like muta against standard openers. Do you want to be diving to kill the super battery when you're executing the taxi, or retreat and wait for it to expire? You need to know that yourself. If it's exposed, then you dive on it. If it's not exposed, you can wait it out. Maybe sometimes you can even fight against it, even if you can't kill it. That depends from situation to situation. I can't always give you guys the perfect answer to what you can do, because in StarCraft very often you need to react to what is in front of you and think for yourself what the best option is, really. When defending Cannonrush, do you want to target down pylons or batteries first? That also depends. That's not always the same. Usually you try to kill the cannons first and then the pylons is usually the way you go. But if you can get batteries before they finish, or if you can get batteries for sure without them actually using up their energy, then yeah, you can also kill batteries. When you decide to go for the standard 52 drone taxi... Oh, when do you decide to go for the standard 52 drone taxi or low drone count? I always go for the 50 drone taxi. If I go for a low drone count, that's because my early game was bad and I was supply locked or something like that. You don't actually hit with more units if you have less drones. The taxi, it's just a couple more links, because your Roach Ravager count is based on your gas timing, so the couple less links, it's not a big deal. So you should always go for the 50 drone one if you don't mess up your early game. But sometimes I can't afford it of this many drones. But if I lost drones against, let's say, a 2 Adept run by, or an Oracle where I was out of position for, so that's when I go for less drones. Lambo, what do you think about Microbial Shroud plus Hydra Lurker versus Skytoss? Archon High Templar composition? I don't think that's good. This is what we've tried immediately after the Microbial Shroud was brought into the game. Microbial Shroud has been buffed a little bit since, but like we always knew that ground units don't die against air units with Microbial Shroud on them. That was not the issue ever. The issue is that it costs a lot of energy, and the Protoss can disengage and kite forever while storming. So while actually getting free damage on your units. The composition that you're describing also just gets hard countered by disruptors completely, which you can't just abduct because High Templars have great range. That's not how it works. But in general, you have no catch with that army. So every single time there's going to be an engagement, you're going to be forced to spend energy. And you're probably going to get stormed at least once or twice while you're running in. And then the Protoss can go back and then engage when the orange cloud stops, or focus fire units that are not in the orange cloud, or focus fire spore crawlers, because spore crawlers don't get affected by the Microbial Shroud. So I do not actually think that's viable. It's a good way to survive if you're behind or something. And Microbial Shroud is also fine if your opponent doesn't have any AoE anti-ground. But I don't think it's good. I think you need some sort of actual catch. Like Fungal is not good enough. You would need to randomly get all the High Templars first, otherwise it's not... I could get behind it maybe a little bit more with Ultras, but even with Ultras, I think eventually you just need Corruptor Viper. If there's an Atrocis pylon that powers 5 cannons, you should go for the pylon. Yes, exactly. Do you think a balance patch will come with the new maps? Probably not. I think the new maps will come without a balance patch. Lambo told us that he tried Microbial on Spores and thought it works great. Wait, what? I did not? Why are you making up stuff? What is this? I know that I tried the Shroud, Mass Hydra Lurker Shroud. I tried it once against Strange on Sequencer. And I won that game very easily, and then I realized that the microbial shot doesn't even work on the sports, and I just won because Skytoss sucks. Like, straight to Skytoss. Yeah, but that's a long time ago. So you're just making up shit now. Or maybe you're confusing me with Ricky. Slicky Ricky. I saw Slicky Ricky try it a bunch. All right. Yeah, if it's like a year ago, yeah, that's true. What would you recommend me for getting out of my MMR hell in Diamond 2? I don't get supply blocks, but I have a hard time spending my money Lyra. I do the same. Like, if you're hard stuck, you should look at your mistakes and focus on them one by one. And you're gonna get a little bit worse at first, because you're gonna do everything else a little bit worse, but then, once it starts becoming natural to you, you will just break through the barrier that's in front of you without any issues. Like, I promise you, that's how that's actually how it works. Like, I've never had problems improving in any of the games that I played, because that's how I usually do it, and I'm a very competitive person, so that helps as well. But this is how you should do it.